people have said my wife saved me.
Yeah.
I was stuck in this world.
Yeah.
And she was from a different world and helped sort of draw me out of that. But none of the elements of my life now would have been possible without me seeing it for myself.
Yeah.
As we know, it's one of the, it's hard to change. It's almost impossible to change other people.
Yeah.
You got to start with changing yourself and allow that growth to happen. But yes, my partner is an exceptional human being, and I'm eternally grateful for the wisdom and the space that she's been able to give to me.
Why is this Meghan Markle hate still ongoing after all these years? It's like everyone has moved on. He's gone to America. He's living with his wife and is happy with his kids. Just let him move on. Apparently, Queen Camilla told a friend that Meghan Markle has brainwashed Harry, which is nonsense because he's clearly in love with Meghan Markle. Harry cut off his royal family for the sake of his wife and kids. I mean, that happens outside the royal family. It happens with many families where they cut off negative family. These people that are living in the past trying to say anything to make any money is just ridiculous. In my opinion, Prince Harry has had the last laugh because he's not bothered. He's completely not bothered. He's just getting on with his life and loving his kids. Meghan Markle was already successful. She already had her own money. She was rich in her own way. And as long as everyone keeps talking about them, they'll keep Harry and Meghan in the limelight. They'll keep them relevant. So this trying to attack them, trying to put them down, isn't going to work. All you're going to do is make them even more famous than they are. But I do know a lot of Brits that cannot stand Meghan Markle. I mean, a lot. I don't get all the hatred, to be honest, but that's just my opinion.
Happy Wednesday, Squaddies. Hope you are all doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Squaddies, let's be real for a second. When Harry said, "My wife saved me," the internet practically dropped its phone. Some people cheered, some people rolled their eyes so hard they nearly saw yesterday. But here's the thing, those weren't our words, they were Harry's, and that's what makes him hit differently. People keep acting like they know what he meant better than the man who actually said it. How does that even work? Last time I checked, nobody else lives inside Harry's head. Nobody else has his memories. Nobody else knows what he was carrying before Meghan came into his life. If Harry says she saved him, then that's his story to tell. Now here's where I laugh a little. Folks hear the word saved and immediately picture some superhero movie, cape flying, explosions everywhere. Relax, that's not what Harry was talking about. Sometimes being saved isn't about somebody pulling you out of a burning building. Sometimes it's meeting one person who finally says, you don't have to keep pretending. And if you've ever had that one friend, that one partner, that one family member who helped you see life differently, then you already understand what Harry was getting at. Regular people know this. We've all seen someone who looked happy on the outside but was carrying the whole world on their shoulders. Good job, nice smile, everything looked fine, until you actually talked to them. Then you realized they were exhausted. Harry grew up with cameras in his face before he could even decide what cereal he liked. Every move judged, every mistake turned into tomorrow's front page, every grin analysed like it was some secret code. That kind of pressure would wear anybody down. Then Meghan shows up, not treating him like a headline, not treating him like a spare, not treating him like a walking royal press release. She treated him like Harry. Imagine that. Sounds simple, right? But sometimes the simplest thing is the one you've been missing your whole life. And here's the funny part. The same critics who insist Meghan had too much influence also spend every day saying Harry is stubborn and impossible to control. So which one is it? You can't have both. Pick a lane. Harry has never hidden the fact that he makes his own choices. He has repeated it over and over. But the royalists and haters pretending a grown man can't think for himself just because he loves his wife doesn't make much sense. To me, what Harry described wasn't weakness, it was gratitude. Big difference. It takes guts to stand in front of millions of people and admit someone changed your life for the better. Plenty of people feel that way about their partner. Very few are willing to say it out loud with the whole world waiting to tear them apart. That's confidence. That's love. And honestly, if your spouse helps you become healthier, happier, more at peace, and more comfortable in your own skin, why wouldn't you give them credit? People clap when athletes thank their coaches. People smile when actors thank their families. But Harry thanks his wife, and suddenly everyone wants a 3-hour debate? Come on now. At the end of the day, this isn't really about royal titles. It's about something every ordinary person understands. Finding somebody who sees the real you, instead of the version everyone else expects. Harry says Meghan gave them that. Whether critics like hearing it or not doesn't change the fact that those words came from him. And maybe that's why they still make so much noise. Because they weren't crafted by palace advisors, they weren't written by tabloids, they weren't polished for good headlines, they came straight from Harry's heart. And sometimes the simplest words make the loudest impact. Now, squaddies, here's something that gets twisted all the time. You'll hear people say, Meghan changed Harry. Hold on a second, did she really? Or did she simply help Harry become the version of himself that had been buried under years of pressure? Those are two completely different conversations. See, some folks act like Harry woke up one morning, met Meghan, and suddenly forgot how to think. Come on now, this is a man who served in the military, founded the Invictus Games, traveled the world, and spent decades inside one of the most watched families on Earth. You're telling me he suddenly lost the ability to make his own decisions? I don't buy that for 1 second. What Harry has actually talked about is something much simpler: perspective, space, a different way of looking at life. And honestly, that's what happens in healthy relationships every single day. Think about your own life. Maybe you had a friend who pushed you to go back to school. Maybe your husband told you to start that business. Maybe your wife looked at you one day and said, "You're worth more than the way people treat you." Did they control you? No, they believed in you before you believed in yourself. There's a huge difference. That's why I laugh whenever people act like Meghan was pulling strings behind the scenes. If your partner encourages you to ask bigger questions about your life, that's not manipulation, that's support. Harry grew up inside a system where almost everything was mapped out before he even had a chance to decide what he wanted. That's a heavy way to live. Then along comes Meghan, someone who built her own career, someone who wasn't raised around palace rules, someone who wasn't conditioned to think, well, this is just how it's always been. Sometimes it takes an outsider to ask the question everyone on the inside stopped asking years ago. Why? Why does it have to be this way? Why can't there be another option? Those questions don't force anybody to leave. They simply remind people they actually have a choice. And that's where Harry's own words matter. He has spoken about Meghan giving him wisdom and giving him space. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say she made every decision for him. He didn't say she controlled his life. He didn't say she handed him a script and told him what to do. He said she helped him see things differently. That's not the same thing. In fact, that's what the best partners do. They don't drive the car for you. They just remind you that your hands are already on the steering wheel. Now, here's the part that always cracks me up. The tabloids love calling Harry weak because he listens to his wife. Since when did listening become a crime? If a husband ignores his wife, people say he's selfish. If he respects her opinion, suddenly he's being controlled. Make it make sense. The truth is, Harry has stood by these decisions year after year, through criticism, through headlines, through documentaries, through interviews, through court cases. That doesn't look like somebody being dragged along. That looks like somebody who knows exactly where he's going. And let's give Meghan some credit here. She didn't hand Harry a brand new identity. She gave him a safe place to question the old one. There's a massive difference. At the end of the day, every one of us hopes to meet someone who brings out our courage instead of our fear. Someone who says, you can do this. Someone who reminds you that your happiness matters too. Harry says Meghan became that person for him. You don't have to copy their choices, but if someone helps you find your own voice after years of living by everyone else's expectations, most regular people would call that a blessing. And judging by Harry's own words, that's exactly how he sees Meghan.
Squaddies, here's what I think a lot of people still don't get. Harry and Meghan stopped being just another royal couple a long time ago. This isn't only about crowns, castles, balcony waves, or who stood where at Christmas. Their story grew way bigger than that. Think about it. How many times have you sat with your friends or family talking about mental health because of a king or a queen? Exactly, almost never. But Harry started speaking openly about losing his mum, going to therapy, carrying grief for years, and trying to break habits that weren't helping him. Meghan spoke about struggling under intense public pressure. Suddenly, people weren't just arguing over royal protocol anymore. They were talking about things happening in their own homes. That's a massive shift. And here's why regular people connected with it. Most of us don't live in palaces. Most of us don't have bodyguards following us around. But almost everybody knows what pressure feels like. Pressure from family, pressure from work, pressure to keep smiling even when life is throwing punches, pressure to live the life everybody else picked for you instead of the one you actually want. Now that's something people understand. That's why Harry and Meghan's story keeps coming back into the headlines. It isn't because people are obsessed with royal titles. It's because people see pieces of their own lives in the conversation. How many people stay in jobs they hate because everybody expects them to? How many people keep quiet at family gatherings just to avoid drama? How many people wake up every morning living somebody else's dream instead of their own? See, now we're talking about real life. Harry and Meghan made people ask uncomfortable questions. Is protecting your peace selfish? Should family loyalty mean saying yes to everything? Is it okay to set boundaries without being called the villain? Those questions didn't start because of palace ceremonies. They started because two people decided to say, this isn't working for us. And boy, did that shake the room. Now, let's be honest, some folks still wish Harry had stayed silent forever. Smile for the cameras, wave from the carriage, pretend everything's perfect, rinse and repeat. But Harry basically said, nah, I'm going to speak for myself. Whether people loved that decision or hated it, they couldn't ignore it. And that's the funny part. Critics keep saying, why are we still talking about Harry and Meghan? While writing another article, filming another TV segment, posting another video. It's like saying you're tired of pizza or ordering another slice. Come on, if people truly didn't care, the headlines would have dried up years ago. Instead, every interview, every appearance, every project gets people talking all over again. Why? Because the conversation isn't only about royalty anymore. It's about choosing your own path. It's about protecting your family. It's about knowing when enough is enough. Those are conversations happening at kitchen tables every single day. And whether you're a mechanic, a teacher, a nurse, or someone working 2 jobs to pay the bills, those questions feel familiar. That's why Harry and Meghan still matter to so many people. Because they reminded people that titles don't erase emotions, money doesn't erase pressure, and even a prince has the right to ask himself one simple question: am I actually happy? At the end of the day, that's the reason this story refuses to disappear. The headlines may be royal, the lesson is human, and that's something people from every walk of life can understand.
Now, squaddies, if you ask me, Harry's biggest victory isn't that he moved to California. It isn't the Netflix deals. It isn't the books. It isn't even stepping away from royal life. The biggest win? He finally grabbed the microphone. For years, everybody else seemed to have a version of Harry ready to sell. The tabloids had their Harry. The palace had its Harry. Royal experts had their Harry. Half the internet had a Harry they'd never even met. Everybody was talking, except the man himself. Imagine living like that. You wake up, and before you've had your first cup of coffee, somebody's already explaining what you're thinking. Nah, I'd lose my mind. That's why this journey matters. Harry stopped letting strangers write the script. He picked up the pen himself. And once you do that, there's no going back. People forget something important. Harry wasn't born as Prince Harry in his own eyes. He was born as Harry, a son, a brother, a husband, a father. The titles came with him, but they were never the whole person. For years, though, it felt like the title swallowed everything else. Every decision got squeezed through the same filter. The spare, the younger brother, the royal rebel. Those labels followed him everywhere like glitter. You think you've brushed them off, then boom, they're back again. But today, Harry decides what matters most: his family, his children, the Invictus Games, mental health, helping veterans, living a life that makes sense to him instead of living one designed to keep everybody else comfortable. And here's something regular people understand better than anybody. There comes a point where you've got to stop living for applause, because applause doesn't pay your peace. You can spend your whole life trying to make everybody happy. Guess what? Somebody will still complain. Wear blue, too blue. Wear black, too dark. Smile, too fake. Don't smile, too miserable. You'll never win that game. Harry seems to have figured that out, and honestly, good for him. Now let's give Meghan her flowers too. People love acting like Harry suddenly forgot how to think the day he fell in love. Please, if anything, Harry sounds more certain about his choices now than ever before. Meghan didn't steal his voice. She believed it deserved to be heard. That's a world of difference. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone isn't advice. It isn't money. It isn't status. It's reminding them they don't need permission to be themselves. That's powerful, and that's why this story refuses to fade away. No family is perfect, no marriage is perfect, no life is perfect. But because Harry stopped letting other people decide who he was, he chose his own direction. He accepted the criticism that came with it, and he kept moving anyway. That takes courage. So when Harry says Meghan helped change his life, maybe this is what he means. Not that she wrote a story for him. She simply reminded him that the pen had been in his hand all along. And once Harry realized that, the headlines stopped owning his future. He did. That's the real transformation. Not becoming a different man, finally becoming his own man. Thanks for watching, Squaddies. I've been your host, Miles. If you enjoyed this podcast, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next upload. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. And if you loved the video, send some love with a super thanks. Until next time, stay awesome, stay loud, and I'll catch you in the next one.